It's so good to see you. Hello, Mr. Wyatt. Ah, well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're going to wait just another minute and see if we have some other families joining. Hi, Shelley. Thank you for being here.
Trying to make it work on my phone. Can you see me okay?
I sure can. Thank you, Shelley. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really love these live sessions when we can all come together and see one another. It's probably one of my favorite things about uh, the new adventure of distance learning that this brought to us. So I love that. Um, well, we'll go ahead and get started. This session will be recorded, so if you have friends or neighbors or family members who aren't able to be here tonight, it'll be posted for everyone to view. And always, if you have questions and want to call, want a time to connect, please just let me know, and I want to make sure that we answer all the questions that you have. So tonight, I have a relatively short slide deck to share with you, which describes our transition to hybrid on-site learning and the Dallas Online Academy. I know that there are so many questions, and I'm going to do my best to answer those in the slide deck. And then please know that at the end, we will have a Q&A time. So any questions that you have, please bring them. We all make a better plan when we share our thoughts and questions and wonders. So please share those if you feel comfortable. If you would prefer to have a private time to ask family-specific or student-specific questions, our chat is private this evening, which means it just goes to me. So feel free to type anything into there and I will follow up with you. Okay, here we go. Okay, so just like I shared our chat feature, I'm going to move us down here. Chat feature is private tonight, and we're going to have the Q&A, oops, not that one, to follow. All right. So tonight we're here to talk about our AB Hybrid and the Dallas Online Academy. So right now, this year, we have been engaged in comprehensive distance learning as our instructional model, and we're getting ready to launch 2 new models, and we want to talk about those tonight. So these 2 models are the AB Hybrid and Dallas Online Academy. In the AB Hybrid, we are so very excited to have found a way to offer 4 days of on-site, in-person learning for our kindergarten students. Again, that's kindergarten only, and it's both here at Lisle and at Oakdale. Kindergarten students have the opportunity to attend school 4 days per week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. We'll talk more about the scheduling in just a moment. Our other 3 grades, first, second, and third, are on site 2 days a week. And we'll, again, in just a moment, we'll look at a schedule of what those cohorts look like. Your classroom teacher may change. The supply distributions that we've been doing roughly every other week for the hybrid program, those will stop. Our meals will continue. So when students are on site, both breakfast and lunch will be provided free for all students, and our grab and go pickup lunches are still available to both older and younger siblings for students on their off-site days. For Dallas Online Academy, we need an option to provide online-only instruction for those families that, for whatever reason, do not want to send their children back on-site for learning for the remainder of the year. We're calling this program Dallas Online Academy. These students who enroll in Dallas Online Academy will have online-only instruction. Their school day schedule will be very similar to what you've been experiencing in comprehensive distance learning. Your classroom teacher may change. The supply distributions will continue for Dallas Online Academy. Meals are the same. Those grab and go breakfast and lunches that get combined will still be available both for older and younger siblings, both AB Hybrid and Dallas Online Academy. So our phase-in timeline, I know this document has been shared with you from our superintendent some time ago, but I want to talk to you a little about it a little more. This phase-in timeline has our kindergarten and first grade students returning to the building quite soon. Our second and third grade students will return to the building a couple weeks later. So let's look at kindergarten and first grade first. So next week, the week of March 1st, kindergarten and first grade teachers will be holding on-site teacher, parent, family conference and building tour opportunities. If possible, because of COVID and our social distancing requirements, if you are able to keep other siblings at home during that time and only come on site with your child who's coming back on site, that would be wonderful. Thank you. During the week of 3-1, all learning for kindergarten and first grade students will be asynchronous. So during that time, students are still accessing their teachers' Canvas pages, but there will be no live instruction that week for kindergarten and first grade students, as our kinder and first grade teachers will be engaged in those live parent-teacher conferences. The following week, the week of 3-8, this is when kindergarten and first grade students begin their AB hybrid. Okay, so that week of 3-8, that's the start for hybrid for kinder and first grade. The following week, the week of March 15th, it's a little bit unusual because that's when our conferences are scheduled. So Monday and Tuesday, we're going to continue with our hybrid model, just like we started the week before. Wednesday through Friday, those are conference days. Your kinder and first grade teachers will reach out to you if they feel, or if you feel like you would like an additional conference, but there is no need to double conference if you and or your teacher don't feel the need of that for your student. Okay. Switching over to second and third grade. So for the weeks of March 1st and March 8th, comprehensive distance learning continues for your students. The week of March 15th, this is when second and third grade teachers will be holding their on-site conference and building tour times with second and third grade families. So during that week, all learning for second and third grade students will be asynchronous. Nothing live. They'll be logging into their teachers' Canvas classrooms and completing all of their assignments asynchronously. The following week, the week of March 22nd, it is spring break, no school that week. When we return, the week of March 29th, AB hybrid begins for second and third grade students and continues for kindergarten and first grade. So, lots of questions. What is an AB hybrid schedule? How does that work? When do students come on site? When are they learning at home? So our AB hybrid schedule has each teacher's classroom broken up into two groups or cohorts, an A cohort and a B cohort. Group A will be on site Mondays and Thursdays. If your child is in the B cohort, they will be on site Tuesdays and Fridays. Wednesday is asynchronous, nothing live, district-wide. All students K-12 on Wednesdays will be asynchronous in their schooling. Wednesday gives our teachers and staff the opportunity to plan together, to prepare for instruction, and engage in professional development and specialized student plan meetings like IEP meetings and 504s. So you might be wondering, okay, so once I know my child's cohort, and if they're in the A cohort or the B cohort, now I know what days of the week they're going to be on site, what's happening for those days that they're not on site. So let's, for a moment, just imagine that your child is in the A cohort. That means they'll be coming here on site Mondays and Thursdays. On Tuesdays and Fridays, they're doing at-home learning. They're still going to have live instruction while they're doing at-home learning. So on those at-home days at 8 o'clock in the morning, we're going to do a Zoom link live, just like we've been doing team time. And Mrs. Locke and Mrs. Jones, Miss Chris Jones, will be holding a morning social emotional learning time. This will look quite similar to our team time. It'll start with Mrs. Locke leading students through some movement and some physical activity to wake up their bodies and brains. And then Miss Chris Jones will join the group and walk students through a check-in on the mood meter to get all of those students ready for a day of learning at home. Students will then have scheduled live reading and or math groups taught by their Title I teachers or assistants. Okay, so both of those at-home learning days, they're going to have that live SEL time, their scheduled intervention group, and then at noon, there will be a live story time for all students to log in and hear a story. Okay. PE, music, and library will continue to be asynchronous links. So videos that our PE, music, and library teachers post and share through their classroom teachers, your students' classroom teachers' Canvas pages. On your classroom teachers' Canvas pages, teachers will also be sharing student applied learning activities. This could look like iReady Reading, iReady Math, MobyMax, or other teacher assignments. This is likely the day that should your child have speech services, those services will be delivered. Most of those speech services will be delivered and scheduled virtually on students' offsite days. Okay, here is a look at our building master schedule. So this is again for hybrid on-site learning. So starting at 7:30 in the morning, kiddos are going to begin arriving. When they do, they will be greeted at the door by staff who are going to engage in some screening. They're going to ask them some questions. They're going to ask them, how are you feeling today? Is anyone at home sick? They're going to be doing a visual screen. Does the child look feverish? Are they having difficulty breathing? Are they coughing? And then they're also going to take their temperature. After arrival and screening, they're going to go directly to their classroom, and that's their time, 8 to 8:30, where they're going to have breakfast in their classroom and do kind of a class morning meeting, learn about the schedule for their day, and have some of that social emotional good start. From about 8:30 to mid-morning, students are going to be in their classrooms engaging in core instruction, so reading, writing, and math. Students are also going to have outside recess time during that morning instructional block. In the middle of the day, students are going to have lunch and lunch recess. Lunch, just like breakfast, will be served in classrooms with students in their seats. If you are sending either breakfast or lunch items with your child, please make sure that they can open those items independently. When students go out to recess, they will have cohort-specific zones in which they will be able to play for the day. Um, Anything else to say about recess? I don't think so. Okay, then they're going to come back into their classroom, and depending on when their lunch and recess time is, they will have some more time to engage in classroom learning before dismissal starts. Because of COVID and our requirements to provide for social distancing, we have to stagger our dismissal. As many of you know, typically at dismissal, our hallways are flooded with teachers and students exiting the building through our various doors. Because we have to maintain social distancing, we are going to start this staggered dismissal at 1 o'clock, loading buses first. So staff are going to be assigned to go through the building and escort those students for buses to their bus, load them on their buses, and then the buses will go. Once all of the buses are loaded, then we will begin dismissing in our parent pickup area by grade level. So down here at the bottom, when we see staggered dismissal, we see kinder up here in this column. We're going to dismiss kinder first, starting about 1:15 to 1:30. If your kinder student has an older sibling that attends Lyle, your older siblings will dismiss with your youngest child. So after buses are dismissed, we will dismiss all kinder students at parent pickup. Then we will dismiss all first grade students at parent pickup, and then second, and then third. Any students not picked up by their family members at parent pickup when the next grade level is coming will wait in the gym, supervised by staff, until their family members come to pick them up. Okay. So in the time of COVID, face coverings are required. Face coverings are required for every part of your child's school day except while they're eating. So when they're out at recess, they're required to wear their face covering. When they're inside the building, they're required to wear their face covering. Anytime they're on site, minus those times that they're eating, having breakfast or lunch, they need to be able to wear their face covering. And this is an essential piece of safety this year at school. So we know, as we are learning about COVID, that there are all sorts of masks and face coverings out there in the world. We need to make sure that your child's mask covers their nose, their mouth, their chin. This graphic here is one that you will see probably again through the district, asking that the masks your children wear have 2 or more layers of washable, breathable fabric, completely cover nose and mouth, and fit snugly against the sides of their face. We don't want masks that make it challenging for students to breathe, for example, vinyl, or that have those exhalation vents. Okay, we talked about staggered dismissal, but again, we want you to know buses are going to dismiss first, starting at 1 o'clock, and then kinder, first, second, and third. If you have other siblings at different grade levels in the building, older siblings will dismiss at parent pickup with your youngest sibling. Okay. We always have exclusion protocols for families. When students are really sick, we don't ever want them coming to school because we don't want those germs to be spread to other students or staff members. But in the time of COVID, this is even more important. So this is one flowchart graphic that you will be provided, which kind of walks you through whether or not your child is well enough to come on site for school. So up here at this top box, if you believe your child may have been in close contact with someone who has tested positive for COVID, your child needs to stay home. Again, close contact is being defined as 15 minutes or more over a 24-hour period within that 6-foot distance bubble without masks or face coverings on. In this second flow here, if your child is ill with cold or flu-like symptoms like runny nose, congestion, sore throat, difficulty breathing, chills, please keep your kiddo home at school. Even if it's not COVID related, we want that child to get to rest and recuperate and come back to school ready to be a learner. And we want to keep all of our students and staff as healthy as possible. Okay, this third one over here, if your child has a fever, please keep your child home. Your child will receive a temperature screening before entering the building at school. And we would rather have you keep your kiddo home when they have a fever than have them arrive at school, be screened, wait in an isolation room for you to come pick them up. Again, this document will be shared with you as we transition to hybrid. So please let us know if your child or someone in your family tests positive for COVID-19, please call the school office and let us know as soon as possible. We are required to engage in contact tracing, and our number one priority this year is keeping all of our students and our staff safe. If your child or someone in your family has been exposed to a positive case of COVID, please let us know as well. Okay, so lots of questions about COVID and school. So what happens when a child develops COVID-19 symptoms at school? So the student will be escorted to our isolation room. In the isolation room, we will have staff there. There are places for children to sit while they're waiting. The employee in the isolation room will connect with our district nurse, Jennifer Lanou, to receive guidance about how to support that student in the isolation room. Students in the isolation room will be monitored. Their temperature will be taken every 30 minutes and recorded for contact tracing purposes. Should your child still remain symptomatic while under supervision in the isolation room, we will be calling you, family, to come pick up your student. Okay, in case we are not able to reach you, we will go down our list of emergency contacts and try to reach someone to come and pick up your student. The privacy of your students is so very important to us. And so staff and students who are presumed infected with COVID-19, their privacy will be protected. Okay, so many families have wondered about the testing, COVID testing that's happening across our community. Up until last week, we were not going to be engaging in any COVID-19 testing at school. Last week, we learned that all school districts will need to engage in some sort of COVID-19 testing on school site only with parent consent. So we're in the process right now of getting more information about that. What that looks like is in the next few days, along with all of this parent information that you're going to get so that you're prepared to send your child back on site for hybrid, you will also receive a link to a consent form that looks like this. The consent form has some contact information, and then the consent is signed on the second page. What this would look like, as I understand it right now, is should your student be symptomatic while at school, that symptomatic student would be escorted to the isolation room. If you have signed consent for COVID testing for your child, in the isolation room, trained staff would guide and support your student to self-test with a swab for the COVID-19 test. If you do not want to sign consent for on-site COVID testing for any time your child may be symptomatic, you don't have to sign consent. We will call you and ask you to please pick up your symptomatic student and recommend that you connect with your doctor or medical professional. So I know there are going to be lots of questions about this. All of us as administrators are working on getting more information about this, receiving training about the reporting parts of this, the consent part of this, the process and training of our staff for this, so more information to come. Many families have also asked, so what happens if there is an outbreak of COVID or a COVID event at the school? So the district nurse, Jennifer Lanou, will immediately contact family members who are involved. Contact tracing logs are used throughout our building, both upon entry and into the building and upon entry to every classroom on site. So when your student comes on site or any adult comes on site, we, including our staff, they fill out contact tracing sign-in forms. Upon entry to any classroom, every staff member that enters a classroom will note their entry on a contact tracing form outside of the classroom. The same will happen for our isolation rooms, and this is how we will support our whole county in engaging in contact tracing should there ever be an outbreak of COVID-19 here at Lyle. Okay, so this is a really big piece for us as educators when we think about having students return to the building when they have not been in school for 11 months. So we've done a lot of thinking together about how very important it is that all of our students feel safe at school. We know that returning to the school building this year will look different and sound different and feel different, and we want to be responsive to whatever their needs might be. So please know that we are mindful of that as you send your students back on site for hybrid learning. So we also are feeling in ourselves and recognizing in our students this really incredible sense of excitement and joy. So the very week that we will have students, K1, kinder and first grade students back on site for hybrid learning will be 1 year to the week that we closed last spring. We are so very excited to have students back on site. And for those students who've been coming on site for limited in-person instruction, the joy that students share and exude just to be back at school is incredible and sometimes overwhelming. We are so excited to have kiddos back on site, and we really want our return to in-person learning to feel like a celebration, to feel joyous, where we can all share in that love of learning again together. Okay. So this is how you get in touch with me. Please email any questions you have. Please call our office at any time. If a private conversation, a phone call, a Zoom works best for you, please let me know. I really want to make sure that we have an opportunity to answer all the questions that you have so you feel safe and confident and secure in the instructional model that you select for your student. Okay, so we'll leave that up there. We're going to go into our Q&A next, but when in doubt, call Lyle. Let us know how I can support you as we make this transition to hybrid learning and the Dallas Online Academy. Okay, all right, maybe we'll just take a collective deep breath together. Again, any private questions that you have that you don't feel comfortable sharing with everyone, please feel free to put them in the chat. Again, they'll go just directly to me, but any questions that you have, I want to be available to you. I think Mrs. Naughton might need to unmute you so you can put your camera on and wave, or if you are Zoom savvy, you can raise your little Zoom hand and let us know that you'd like to share something as well.
Mrs. Alpert, if a child cannot go to school because they've been exposed to someone who has COVID, will they be online learning during that time?
That's an excellent question. So we know for students that would be engaged in the hybrid model and needing to quarantine, that their teachers would still be supporting asynchronous and student applied learning activities on their Canvas pages. If for some reason the quarantine or the health condition that a student is experiencing seems like it's going to be more than the 10 or 14 days, having a conversation with me about a possible transition to Dallas Online Academy is probably going to be a good idea. So we'll take that one student specific event at a time.
And what if a family is traveling out of state?
Yes, that's a very good question. So right now we still have orders from the governor to quarantine. The expectation, and that's the language that is used, it's an expectation that individuals that engage in out-of-state travel will self-quarantine at home. We have no enforcement mechanism for that. What we have is this very, very sincere desire to keep all of our students and all of our staff safe. So please, if you do engage in out-of-state travel, please let us know, and we want to work with you to support your child in having everything they need while they're quarantining at home to be a successful learner during that period. So yes, there are still out-of-state travel quarantine expectations. I just can't believe that we have no questions. I just can't. So I'm just going to keep waiting you out, Lyle.
Mrs. Alpert, did you mention how long people have to quarantine if they've traveled out of state?
Thank you so much. I believe it's a 10-day quarantine.
Do you anticipate more detail coming about the Dallas Online Academy's schedule, or will that come from their individual online teacher?
Thank you. Yes, so right now, all of our teachers have been, our staffing has been set. So we know all of the teachers that are teaching hybrid on-site. We know all of the teachers that are teaching Dallas Online Academy. And similarly for our students, we know that if they're enrolled in Dallas Online Academy or coming back for hybrid. All of our teachers are going to need to engage in parent-teacher conferences with you. So if you are coming back on site for hybrid, we want to give you that opportunity to come to the building with a student and see what school looks like, what a classroom looks like, what our entry and screening protocol looks like, what an isolation room look like prior to your students starting hybrid and being on site. For those students and families that are selecting Dallas Online Academy, your new teachers are going to be reaching out to you to schedule virtual parent-teacher conferences so that they can meet you and your student and get to know you prior to Dallas Online Academy being up and running. So earlier on a slide, I had some dates for parent-teacher conferences for K1 the week of March 1st, and then for 2-3 the week of March 15th. Those 2 weeks for our 2 different grade level groups will still be conference times for those families for Dallas Online Academy. And more information about your specific child's Dallas Online Academy schedule will be coming, but we're trying to keep that 8 o'clock in the morning Zoom SEL time consistent, just like we have had it during comprehensive distance learning, and that I know all of those 4 teachers teaching Dallas Online Academy are planning on keeping their comprehensive distance learning schedule very, very similar to what you're experiencing now in CDL.
I have a question. What type of COVID test are these children going to receive?
That's a wonderful question. I have it right here. It is called the Abbott Binax Now Rapid Point of Care Antigen Test.
Okay, is that the one that they swab the mouth, or do they swab the nose?
I'm getting more information about that. My understanding at this time is that it's a nose swab. And I'm not sure if your name is Curtis. I see Curtis's iPhone right there. As soon as I have more information, I'm going to be sharing that with you. This is a really big development. We knew that on-site COVID testing would be in the plan for those districts that chose to reopen when their county COVID numbers were outside of the recommended metrics. And for us in Dallas, because our numbers have been falling, on-site testing was really completely put on the back burner, thinking that's not coming for us at all. It wasn't until late last week, I believe Friday, that we got new guidance released saying that students and staff who are symptomatic on-site, that we would all of our school districts would have to have on-site COVID testing available. Again, for students, it is completely at parent consent.
Okay, so I was reading your thing and it says if we choose not to have our child tested,
Yes.
it's if if you feel he's not well, is that on a daily basis? So if he feels not well, are we going to have, is there a time restraint that before he can actually come back?
So those kinds of decisions will be made in consultation with our district nurse. But what we want to do is just make sure that students that are symptomatic, regardless if those symptoms are a product of the COVID virus, we want to make sure that symptomatic students stay home until they're feeling well enough to return to on-site instruction. But if we're excluding a student for being symptomatic, I want us to be doing that in consultation with our district nurse.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Did you mention what the turnaround time is for test results?
I don't have that, and as soon as I do, I will share that with you.
I also know that you talked about the cohorts A and B. Did we mention how people will know whether they're in A or B?
Wonderful. So we have mailed for all kinder and first grade families, kinder and first grade students. We have mailed you letters that detail your child's classroom teacher and cohort. Second and third grade families, those will be coming to you shortly thereafter. I believe all of those were readied today. So that communication is coming in the mail to you. And I also think that many of your classroom teachers, your child's current classroom teachers, may be sharing that information with you as well. I know it takes some time for it to sink in before we have questions, so it's fine. We can just sit here and wait as as thoughts and wonders kind of roll around in there. But if they come after this evening as well, please send me an email. I want to make sure that I answer any questions that you have, or call the school. We have never done this before. We've never done a year of comprehensive distance learning, and we've never run a hybrid model. So we are all still working out so many of the small pieces to this with so many moving parts. So the questions that you have, they're really important. They matter as a parent. I want to know those things. So please feel free to ask at any time, even if that's not tonight.
Mrs. Alpert, will the school be providing masks if students forget them?
Yes, absolutely. So we have disposable masks for students and staff. We have kid-size masks. We also have a large number of cloth fabric donated masks by a community organization in Dallas with all of these really adorable, fun, kid-friendly prints that are just wonderful. So students, if they like, may select a mask with a pattern and a fabric that they like and take that home. I know that all students, just like all staff, have also received, we've received 2 of these white kind of cotton masks to distribute, and we've received those for students as well. But yes, if your child does not have a mask, we have paper disposable masks. And then we also have cloth masks for your children to select and take home and keep.
What about school supplies? Are parents going to be asked to provide them?
That is such a wonderful question. Thank you. Because of COVID, all of our school supplies are individual. So families, we so appreciate you doing all of the incredible thing you do, going shopping at the beginning of back to school to get all of those wonderful things for your students. We're also not in back to school time where those supplies might be readily available to you. Plus, we're in the time of COVID where we're trying to not share germs with one another. So we have ordered school supplies for all students. Your students will have kind of like a big plastic basket into which they're going to put all of their things, and that's going to sit right next to them, next to their desk. They're going to be able to fit their backpack and their jacket and their school supplies in there. We've also ordered these smaller containers that they're going to put all their school supplies in, and we want them to leave that container of school supplies here at school in their bigger private basket that's just for them, because we know our little kinder all the way to our third graders, when they take things home, they don't always come back. So they're going to have their very own big basket. In that big basket, they're going to have a little student supply basket of all of their pencils and glue sticks and crayons and all those things that they need to be elementary learners. And that's going to stay here and stay just for them. So thank you, and we'll be asking you for school supplies again in the fall.
We have a question.
Yay!
So for the parents that are still working full time, and I know that they're planning for the middle and high school students to return to school soon, will there be the after school programs available for those parents that are still working full time, and we have the older children that could potentially care for the younger children heading back to school?
Yes, that's a wonderful question. So Salem Child Development Center, that has run our Latchkey program, our after school program here at Lisle, will not be running a program here on site. Salem Child Development Center has secured the Dallas Alliance Church in town to be their site for SCDC care. I do not know yet if they are able to provide care through what hours, but I know that that's the site that they've identified, and that care will be available during the school day hours. I'm not sure about those evening work hours. And in terms of the secondary plan to transition to another instructional model other than the one we're in right now, comprehensive distance learning with limited in-person instruction, I know secondary buildings are still engaging in that planning, and there is no phase-in plan for either the middle or high school at this time.
So if they are if the after school program is available, how are the children getting from Lisle to the Alliance Church?
Mm-hmm. Transportation would run that. So if your child needs transportation, those busing forms we have available if your child needs that, just like any other time on that transportation form. You as the parent, when you're completing that, are putting the transportation address on there where the bus barn is busing your student after school.
So with no timeline, we really just don't have any idea of how that's going to happen eventually. We just kind of hoping that it's going to run together when they eventually open the other schools, because it sounded like from the superintendent that they planned on launching middle and high school fairly soon. And it sounds like maybe you guys aren't really sure about that. I understand this is all new and everybody's trying something new, and it's going to have errors, but for the parents that are working full time and possibly some of them not even working in town, having these types of questions really limit our decision making because we don't know what's happening with all of our children.
I completely agree. I want to tell you that I so appreciate the 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 immensity and the weight of the question there that you're asking, the importance of that. I don't have any information about when or if secondary is planning on transitioning to opening their buildings to a different model than they're currently running. I think Salem Child Development Center, reaching out to them is probably the very best way to get the most up-to-date information about after-school care through Salem Child Development Center. I know that they have been reaching out, emailing and connecting, surveying their current families. So Salem Child Development Center definitely has the most up-to-date information on what they're able to offer programmatically. And I know that just like all of us elementary principals and teams have been working so very hard to get our buildings opening and transitioning to the hybrid model, I know that our middle and high school students or buildings are doing the same. And I know that as soon as they have that information, they will certainly share that with you. I do not have any information about any dates or a phase-in plan for middle or high school at this time.
So one last thing, if we send our elementary student to school on the hybrid learning, and then eventually our middle school and high school student end up in school and they're on different schedules, is there an opportunity to change the schedule so they all line up so that they can at least provide with each other?
Yes, that is a wonderful question. And we've really been thinking about that for some months, which is why we are engaging in this cohorting process in a district-wide fashion. So some months ago, prior to our very sharp pivot to comprehensive distance learning, I think that was sometime in August, we had all been planning to start this year in the hybrid model. That required that all of us administrators in buildings K-12 had a cohorting model that would put all of our siblings on the same schedule. So for our A cohort, we have students whose last names start with the first letter A through K. Cohort B is L through Z. So that's our kind of first pass for cohorting students district-wide. We know, however, going into that cohorting process that we have many siblings throughout the district that do not share a last name, right? They have different last names. So what we've done is have the eldest sibling set the cohort for the youngers. So in our system, when we go and we look at all of our enrolled students, we see the siblings that they have in the district in their different buildings. When we're cohorting students, we're looking at their last name, if they fall into the A category cohort or the B cohort, and then we look to see if they have siblings. And if they do those siblings have different last names? If so, that eldest sibling, their last name sets the cohort for the youngers. And that's the model that we're working on for cohorting, because we really want to avoid just what you're describing now, that concern that we bring elementary students back and then in some time we bring secondary students back and they're on different schedules. We can imagine how challenging that would be for families, and we want to do everything we can to not put you in that position. So we're working really, really hard on that cohorting process district-wide.
Okay, thank you for answering all my questions. I really appreciate your time and all the hard work you guys are putting into this. I know it's difficult.
Oh my gosh, we appreciate you so much. I mean, that's like the overarching conversation that we just need to have probably before we start any of these conversations, is to really just say thank you. I mean, there is absolutely no question that we want in every year to partner with our students, especially those students in their elementary years, because those home and school connections are so very important to students' educational career. But never before have we needed to partner in this very intense way that we're doing right now. And we thank you, families, so much. We know that we have grandparents that are supporting, older siblings that are supporting, and just parents and all of the above. So thank you. tell you, Lyle staff is just absolutely amazing and working so very hard to serve you and your students well. And we really appreciate and know how hard you're working too. So thank you for partnering with us this year.
Mrs. Alpert, will there perhaps be set times for people to pick up to try to avoid a big backlog of people coming through parent pickup at the wrong time?
Oh, goodness. Whew. Well, even in a typical year, goodness, we love our Ellendale and Levin streets, but goodness, out there trying to get into our parent pickup lot, we know there are some days that we back up. So we are trying. That's why we are trying to dismiss by grade level. So if you have kinder only students, we're trying to get those wiggly bodies out of the building and dismissed as soon as possible with any siblings that they have. We ask, right, for the most efficient dismissal process possible. Please, parents, try to come. Please, family members, try to come at your assigned grade level time. If we have third grade families, coming through at the kindergarten time, we're not going to send you away, but it sure does cause a backup in our line when we are using our radios to communicate to classroom teachers in the office to escort students that aren't there ready for pickup. So we want our dismissal to be as safe as possible, as efficient as possible. And we know things happen and traffic happens, but we're all gonna do our part to make dismissal as smooth as possible. So please do your best to come at your child's staggered dismissal time.
What about mask breaks? Will kids have mask breaks?
Mask breaks are not something that we have available to us in previous iterations of the Ready Schools Safe Learners document, and that's really the document that comes to us, all public school districts in the state of Oregon, from the Department of Education in collaboration with the Oregon Health Authority. Previously, we thought that we might have the opportunity when students returned to hybrid learning to have something called a mask break. That is no longer available to us. I think it was 2, maybe 3 RSSL update releases ago that was changed. So the expectation is that students wear masks or face coverings their entire time at school when they're on school property, both inside the building and outside. The only time that we are allowed to allow students to remove their masks and face coverings is during their meal times, breakfast and lunch, and then put them right back on.
Can students bring their own hand sanitizer?
Very good question. I think that if families want students to have their own hand sanitizer in their backpack because they want them to really be sanitizing, okay. We're gonna have our hand sanitizer to use upon entry and through our building because we know that hand sanitizer meets the requirement of the alcohol content to kill COVID. But if you would like to send something additional for your student, I think that will be fine as long as the student is being safe and responsible with that and keeping that in his or her backpack. In the elementary building, we are very familiar with items from home making their way to the school building and becoming toys rather than tools. So I think that's something that we can support if that's of value to you parents, but please know that through the students' process for entry into the building and probably through recess as well, they will be using school approved and provided hand sanitizer because we know the alcohol content.
Can you address whether students are going to be moving to a different teacher and why that might happen?
Absolutely. So we know that in every grade level, we have some students that are assigned a new classroom teacher. So for example, in our kindergarten classrooms, we have our 3 kindergarten teachers that are going to be teaching hybrid on site, but we do have some families that have selected online only. We are not going to be asking our licensed staff to be teaching both instructional models. That is, we're not going to be asking them to teach the hybrid on-site model all day, every day, as well as teaching the comprehensive distance learning or the Dallas Online Academy online only model. That requires that we have staff that are teaching fully on site in the hybrid model and staff that are teaching those students whose families have selected Dallas Online Academy in the online academy instructional model. So for kindergarten, we have Kenya Myers, who is teaching kindergarten Dallas Online Academy. For first grade, we have 3 of our 4 teachers teaching on-site hybrid, and Mrs. Sydney Lamont will be teaching Dallas Online Academy for first grade. Of our 5 seconders, 3 of them will be on-site teaching hybrid, and Emily Boyd will be teaching Dallas Online Academy for second grade students. In third grade, 3 of our 4 teachers will be on-site teaching hybrid, and Mr. Zach Jones will be teaching third grade Dallas Online Academy. So because of those shifts, when families are selecting, say, Dallas Online Academy for their third grade student, they may have been by chance in Mr. Jones's class since the beginning of the year, but they may very well have been in Mrs. Peterson's or Mrs. Jones's or Miss Eshelman's class as well, in which case if they're selecting Dallas Online Academy and their teachers are staying on site to teach hybrid, that's why they're getting a new teacher. So for every grade level, we're seeing some of that shifting, which is why in those teacher conference times, even for Dallas Online Academy, it's so important that classroom teachers have that opportunity to connect with their new students and their new families in the Dallas Online Academy and program too, because they want to meet their new students and meet their new families and really be planful about a really productive rest of the school year.
Regarding dismissal, do you still anticipate letting children walk to the church parking lot? And can parents come inside to stand by the classroom door to wait for their children?
Both really good questions. So visitors are not allowed on site in our buildings. So we will not be having families waiting in our entryway. We are going to be asking that everybody follow all of our social distancing requirements and mask wearing requirements anytime they're on site, either to drop off their student or pick up their student. Right now, we are planning on bus dismissal happening from the front door and parent pickup happening from that back side of the building. We know that we are going to have students that will walk and we will have crossing guards out to support that. But in terms of having a large number of families waiting across the street in the church parking lot, that might not be the best social distancing way, but we will make every effort to support the needs of our families, especially if that's to support our students walking and crossing at that intersection. But no, we're not having families enter the building and wait in our entryway during this time.
On the subject of going home, how will the buses be safe, and will children be screened on the buses?
Wonderful questions, yes. So the bus drivers will have masks on. Students will be sanitizing prior to entering the bus. Just like social distancing that's happening in the classroom, social distancing is also happening on buses as well. If you have not yet had an opportunity to watch our hybrid video that we shared with our K-5 families, please do. It does show distancing on school buses. On school buses, we don't need to try to keep that 35 square feet of usable space per person or maintain that 6-foot bubble. On buses, they're allowing students to sit a little bit closer, especially if those students are coming from the same household. So again, we're social distancing to keep those germs apart, keep students from sharing those germs, but if they come from the same household, they can sit together in a seat. For students who are riding buses to school, our buses will have social distancing signing on the side, which indicates in what we would call it real distance, what 6 feet of space look like, so that when students are lining up outside, they can see how to space their bodies. And again, drivers are going to be doing that visual screen of students, asking students to use that hand sanitizer prior to getting on the bus, distancing while on the bus. If at any time our bus drivers see a student is symptomatic, they will let us school staff know so that we can escort that student to the isolation room when they get to the school site.
Would you clarify on the for families who've chosen a hybrid model, the 2 days they'll be in school with their teacher, the other 3 days, can you clarify whether they transition to the online academy or whether they are staying with that teacher? What happens in those off 3 days?
Mm-hmm. In those off 3 days. So let's take cohort A, for example, again. If your student is in cohort A, he or she is coming on site Mondays and Thursdays. Wednesday kind of exists in this different pocket in my brain where everything is asynchronous. There's no live instruction district-wide on Wednesdays. So really our live instructional days are Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So if your kiddo is in the A cohort, they're coming on site Monday and Thursday. The question that I'm hearing is, okay, so what about their offsite days, that Tuesday and Friday? Tuesday and Friday, they are not being taught by Dallas Online Academy teachers. It's a completely different instructional program. If you have selected hybrid learning for your child, they have a classroom on their 2 offsite days, not including Wednesday. Wednesday is asynchronous for everybody. Those 2 offsite days, their classroom teacher will be providing student applied learning opportunities for their students through their Canvas classroom page. On their students' Canvas classroom page, just like now, where you have links to the PE video, the music video, library video, all of that will be there for you to access on your student's offsite day. Your student will also have a link there to join the live SEL time, that social emotional learning time, at 8 o'clock those mornings. There will also be a link there for your student to join the live story time at noon on those days. And then our staff will be reaching out to you to communicate your child's schedule for title intervention. So on both of their offsite days, they get live social emotional learning, they get live title small group instruction, they get live story time, and then their classroom teachers are posting on their Canvas pages that student applied learning, iReady Reading, iReady Math, MobyMax, and then classroom or grade level specific activities.
And as we talk about the hybrid schedule, kindergarten is still coming to school 4 days a week, separate from the 2 days a week that we're talking about.
Yes. What we've seen nationwide and statewide is a push, a value, both to having our K-3 elementary students back on site as soon as possible, really prioritizing our youngest learners. With that in mind, having our kindergarten students be able to receive as much live in-person on-site instruction as possible is really, really important to us. I think Mr. Boffman and I feel extremely excited to be able to find a way to bring our kinders on site 4 days a week. I don't know of any other district across the state that is doing that, and we feel really, really proud of being able to offer that for our youngest learners. So yes, kinder students whose families select the hybrid model will be on site 4 full days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
So going back to this online schedule on their off day so we already have all their stuff for their classroom. that they can access through their Zoom and all that. Is there going to be additional programs, or can they be able to access everything through the stuff they already have?
There will be some different things. So right now we are not offering that Zoom link that's live social emotional learning. So that time to come together with Mrs. Locke, who's our PE teacher, and Miss Chris Jones, who's our Polk County mental health person right now, we haven't ever provided that before. And so that'll be happening in the mornings. We've also not ever provided that live story time in the afternoons. And so that is also new. The title intervention instruction that we're talking about, that's also new for the building. Typically in our title intervention program, we use literacy data, school-wide literacy data to identify those students who are really most needing those direct teacher intervention supports for literacy. For our building, that's typically about 80 students. What we are taking on right now is building-wide title intervention. So instead of providing those title intervention groups only for 80 of our almost 350 students at Lyle, all of our students that are selecting the hybrid model, they will all receive 2 days of live small group instruction on their off-site at-home learning days. So all 3 of those pieces are new and will be in addition to what teachers put on their Canvas pages for student applied learning.
But that can all still be offered through the Canvas page. We're not going to have to download anything new or anything like that.
I see where you're going. That's a great question. Yes, your link for the SEL time, that can be put on the Teacher's Canvas page. The link for story time can be put there as well. The link for small group instruction, I think we've been sending that directly to families. Mrs. Larios, I'm looking to you. How will we be sharing that link for title intervention groups with families?
I believe that I will be able to have it available on the Canvas pages. Probably you would get an initial email saying, for example, click on group A,
Okay,
and then the child would just have to remember which group to click on.
perfect. Okay. So right now, thank you, Mrs. Larios. Right now, our Title I teacher, Mrs. Larios, in addition to Mrs. Tisler, Mrs. Hethorn, they are collaborating on making all of those small groups for intervention for students. And then they'll be communicating that out to families so that you know, okay, my student has their intervention group on Tuesdays and Fridays at 10:30 or whatever time you have. So it sounds like it'll come to you in an email so that you know what group your student's in, and then all of those groups will be posted grade level on your teacher's Canvas pages, and you just have to click on your student's group. Thank you. That was a really good question. Thank you for that one.
Are you anticipating students needing to bring their checked out iPads to school with them on their hybrid days?
It is possible. Right now, especially for elementary students, we know they have had a whole lot of device time. And depending on your student and your family and your own personal beliefs about that, I think all of us are really kind of wanting to step away from the devices a little bit, especially when students are on site. We want them to have that school experience of looking at their peers and interacting with their peers and looking at their teacher and talking and interacting with their teacher, not interacting with a screen like they have been for the last 10 months. So there may be limited scenarios in which we will be asking students to bring their devices on site. One reason that comes to mind might be if your child, say, receives speech services And if your child's specific speech service group is not able for logistical reasons to be scheduled on their offsite day, it might be that they are Zooming with their speech teacher in a separate place through their device. So there may be situations like that we would be asking you to support your student in bringing their device on site. But really, oh my gosh, we want them to be elementary students that get to come into their classrooms and interact with their peers and their teachers and use paper and pencil and work on all of those really wonderful and super important K-3 skills. Okay. If you have questions, again, you can put them in the chat and they'll come just to me and I can reach out to you personally. If there's something that you want to ask here and it's just not fully formulated yet, that's okay. We'll keep hanging on for a minute. Or if something comes to you later or at 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, like many things come to me, you can always call, you can always email. I want you to know how important it is that we have an opportunity, that I have an opportunity to answer your questions, because we are all stepping into something new. So all of those questions are important. All of those questions help us make a better model, help serve you and help serve your students better. So all of those questions, please feel free to just call, email, and we can find a time to meet and talk. Okay, if you're wanting to step away, please do. I don't have any other things planned, but I do want to be available for you. So thank you so much for joining tonight. I just so appreciate you. And I am so very excited to see your students back on site. And I know our teachers and all of us were so excited for that too. And if you are selecting Dallas Online Academy, our teachers are so excited to meet their new students and to launch this new instructional model, Dallas Online Academy. And really, really just excited to have a fabulous remainder of the year. So please let us know how we can serve you and support you better. Let us know what questions you have. I still can't imagine anything better than what we all get to do every day. So thank you so very much for entrusting us with your children, the most precious thing in the world. So thank you. Okay, everybody. Any last questions?
How about a little recess on our way out? Can you talk about what the zoned playground looks like and how recess looks different?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. We all want to do a little recess on our way out. Okay, so recess, we are so excited that our kiddos get to have outside recess because each of our grade levels has 3 classroom teachers teaching on site. Kinder has 3, first, second, and third, they all have 3. That seems to be the magic number for our groups. So our outside playground area is in our mind, divided into 3 sections. So if you've been outside on our playground before, we have these 2 bark chip areas that have what I call big toys. They have slides, they have things to climb on. Those 2 are in separate bark chip areas, and both are right next to some asphalt area too. So if you are, let's get directional. If you are standing in our playground and you are looking due west, toward the ball field, that bark chip area plus the asphalt that is on your right, getting closer to our Kinder Commons area over there, that is going to be one playground recess area. if we kind of shift our bodies a little bit and we're looking out south, that bark chip area that has the portable right next to it and some grass behind, that bark chip area and that first half under our covered area asphalt is going to be another recess play area. So first, bark chip, big toy with asphalt. Second, bark chip, big toy with under the play shed asphalt. Our third cohort space is going to be that second half of under the play shed, and then over closer to our, let's see what's down there, second and third grade classrooms on that asphalt over there. So we're going to have 3 sections. That's how the playground is divvied up. Each section will have 2 sets of recess equipment so that the cohorts that are out there, they're not sharing equipment, right? All of this cohorting is that students are not sharing germs. So when they go out there in their cohort, they're in one of those 3 recess zones using their cohort's recess equipment. That's why there are 2 for each section so that they can be sanitized in between. What else to say about recess? We're in Oregon. It rains. So we are planning for inclement weather, knowing when it rains, we're going to have one of our cohorts, the cohort that is half under the play shed and half in that wide open asphalt space over by the 3rd grade hallway. They're going to stay under the play shed during inclement weather. Those other 2 groups that would otherwise be scheduled to be out in the bark chip big toy area, they're going to be separate cohorts in our gym. Okay, so on inclement weather days, we're going to have 2 separated cohorts with their own recess equipment in the gym. Again, no mixing in cohorts, and then 1 outside under the covered area. Mrs. Locke and I are working on the recess rotation so that all of our students get to experience all 3 of those recess zones across their on-site days. So it's not that they're going to be under the covered area for every day they're on site or on this area of the bark chip and big toy every day for recess when they're on site. We're making a schedule so that kiddos get to experience all 3 of those zones and get to experience as much recess fun and variety as possible. Okay, so there's some recess. All right, Lyle families, I sure do appreciate you. I am so honored to get to serve you every day. I can't imagine anything better. Hi, Wyatt, I see you, bud. Okay, you're going to call me when you have questions. You're going to email me when you have questions. You can put them in the chat if it's private, and I will reach back out to you. I think we're going to keep doing this because this is just so fun. So for the remainder of the year, we're going to keep doing these live sessions. I think they're wonderful. And we are so, so very excited to see your kiddos back on site. And thank you again for everything you've been doing partnering with us. Okay, we will see you soon, Lyle. Night, everybody.